July 17, 1981. It was supposed to be a night of celebration. Inside the lobby of the Hyatt Regency in Kansas City, over 1,600 people gathered for a tea dance. The star of the show wasn't the music. It was the architecture. 3 massive suspended walkways floating in the air, holding hundreds of spectators. They felt safe. They were standing in the most modern building in the city. Why wouldn't they be? But they didn't know that deep inside the steel connection, a fatal reaction had already begun. A microscopic war between gravity and negligence. At 7:05 p.m., the illusion of safety shattered. In mere seconds, 114 people were dead. 216 were injured. It remains the deadliest structural failure in American history. But this wasn't an act of God. It wasn't an earthquake. It was caused by a simple change in a design drawing, a change that saved the construction company a few $1,000s, but cost the victims their lives. Welcome to Fatal Blueprints. To understand this tragedy, we have to go back to 1978. Construction in Kansas City was booming. The Hyatt Regency was the crown jewel project. The structural engineers, GCE, led by Jack Gillum, were under immense pressure. They were using a method called fast-track construction. Fast-track meant building the hotel while the designs were still being drawn. It was a race against the clock. And in a race, mistakes happen. The original design for the walkways was simple. Imagine a single long steel rod hanging from the ceiling, holding up both the 4th floor bridge and the 2nd floor bridge below it. But the steel fabricator, Haven Steel, ran into a problem. Creating a continuous 40-foot threaded rod was difficult and expensive. It could be easily damaged during shipping. So they made a phone call. They proposed a change. Instead of one long rod, why not use 2 shorter rods? One connecting the ceiling to the 4th floor and another connecting the 4th floor to the 2nd floor. It seemed like a minor adjustment. The engineers approved the change over the phone. No calculations were checked. The stamps were pressed. The fatal blueprint was born. July 1980. The hotel opened to great fanfare. It was an architectural marvel. The lobby was an open atrium, a cathedral of glass and light. The walkways were the main attraction. They looked like they were floating on air. But gravity never sleeps. For 1 year, the steel connections held on, barely. Fast forward to July 17, 1981. The tea dance was in full swing. The swaying of the crowd to the music added a dynamic load that the engineers hadn't fully accounted for. Every step sent a vibration through the rods. The nut, holding thousands of pounds, was hanging on by a thread. Here is exactly why that design change was deadly. Imagine you are hanging from a rope. That is the original design. You carry your own weight. Now imagine another person hanging onto your ankles. In the new design, the 4th floor beam wasn't just holding itself up. It was now supporting the entire weight of the 2nd floor bridge below it. The load on the connection nut had doubled. Back to July 17th. The tea dance begins. People flood onto the walkways to watch the band. The bridges are packed beyond capacity. The box beams were made by welding 2 C-channels together. They were weak. As the weight increased, the steel edges began to curl inward. The nut didn't break. The beam itself tore open. Like a button popping off a tight shirt, the steel simply couldn't hold. Gravity took over. The silence that followed was louder than the crash. Water from broken pipes sprayed over the ruins. The lobby had turned into a war zone. Within minutes, Kansas City's emergency response was overwhelmed. It was the chaos of a battlefield. Inside, the air was so thick with dust you couldn't breathe. Water from severed pipes was rising, threatening to drown those trapped under the concrete. Dr. Joseph Weckerl was one of the first on the scene. He spent hours crawling into unstable voids to amputate limbs and drag people to safety. The concrete slabs were too heavy to lift by hand. Construction workers brought in heavy cranes, smashing through the front doors to lift the death traps off the victims. By morning, the silence returned. The last survivor was pulled out after 9 hours. The lobby was empty, except for the abandoned shoes of the dead. The shock turned to anger. The entire nation asked one question: how could a modern building just fall down? It wasn't just a tragedy, it was a crime scene. The hotel was sealed off. The evidence was frozen in time. To find the truth, investigators had to look past the rubble and look at the blueprints. The wreckage was moved to a secret warehouse. Engineers from the National Bureau of Standards arrived. They treated every bolt and beam as a witness. It didn't take long to find the smoking gun. The connections told the whole story. The steel hadn't failed. The design had. For Jack Gillam, the chief engineer, the realization was a nightmare. He hadn't personally reviewed the change, but it was his firm. It was his responsibility. In the world of engineering, a stamp is your bond. It means, I have checked this. This is safe. But in this case, the stamp was a lie. During the hearings, the truth came out. GCE had never performed calculations on the connection. Haven Steel assumed GCE checked it. GCE assumed Havens designed it properly. The Missouri Board of Architects and Engineers didn't accept "I didn't know" as an excuse. Negligence is not an accident. Jack Gillam and Daniel Duncan were found guilty of gross negligence. They lost their engineering licenses in almost every state. Their careers were over. Their firm, GCE, once respected, went bankrupt. But the story didn't end there. But Jack Gillam did something unexpected. Instead of hiding, he spent the rest of his life lecturing at universities. He shared his failure so that future engineers wouldn't make the same mistake. Because of Hyatt, the peer review system became standard. Today, no single engineer can sign off on a critical design alone. Every calculation must be checked by another pair of eyes. The hotel still stands today, renamed and rebuilt. The floating skywalks are gone, replaced by a single sturdy balcony supported by massive columns. Safe, grounded. The cost of these safety rules was paid for by the 114 souls who went to a dance on a summer night and never came home. Engineering is a noble profession, but it is unforgiving. A misplaced decimal point, a phone call, a lazy assumption can bring down a castle. Details aren't just details. They are life and death. This is Fatal Blueprints. If you want to see more deep dives into engineering disasters, subscribe and hit the bell. Next time, we investigate a dam that killed 400 people because of a geological mistake. What disaster should we analyze next? Let me know in the comments.